Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about goat farming. Today we're going to talk about using samples. So in front of me here, I've got the Loopmasters website, I've got Splice, I got Futurephonic, I got Sennheiser, to name a few. These places will offer high quality samples and preset packs for your favorite synths for purchase, royalty free. Now, why have I picked these 4 pages? I don't have any affiliation with them. I use Splice personally, and I think it's a great service, so I'm happy to talk about that as an unbiased participator. I've used Futurephonic. I think they're great. I think they make great quality stuff. Sennheiser, I've used a couple of their packs as well. And Loopmasters, I know that Loopmasters is quite good. They even have their Loop Cloud. I don't understand how that works because I've not used it before, but these guys sell a lot of sample packs. So you can go in here, you can go genre, and you can find whatever you want, all right? You can find Ableton Live packs, you can find all sorts of stuff. And they create great quality content. Splice, you can come to Splice, you can make an account, you can go to sounds. Splice is quite cool and unique because you can search through all sorts of samples in their library. So we can say we want some, I've written industrial drums before, so let's go industrial drums, see what comes up. I'll just quickly pop my headphones on so we don't blast ourselves. What do we got here? Scroll down, you can see all these samples. Let's click them. Clap, kick drum, happy days. They're not very industrial, but they're drums, right? So you can get more specific with the way you want to search this. Impacts. I did find that the search function of this isn't always that on point. If you kind of go through here and you click this and that to get more specific, can help. Futurephonic, they do some sample packs and stuff for Serum, preset packs and stuff. And the reason I mention these guys is because, you know, Psytrance is something that I create and this stuff's specific to Psytrance. And then Sennheiser, again, they do all sorts of stuff for different genres. You can find preset packs. They do some free samples as well. You can find stuff and you can start making things. So what do you do though once you get a sample? You know, what's the sort of mentality behind using samples? And maybe we'll talk about what to do with the sample, and then later on we'll talk about the mentality surrounding the use of samples. So let's go like synth lead. We'll just find something that sounds like a lead sound, okay? And we'll find something that kind of let me get more specific, all right? So I'm gonna go loops or genre. Let's go genre. Let's go Psytrance because that's what I do. And let's have a listen. Okay, cool. All right, straight away. This has got a melody and it's at 138 BPM, right? So I'm going to click download. And what that does is downloads it into a folder on my computer. And then if I open up Splice here, it's a little piece of software that you install. And I see that it's been recently added here, right? So that's the sound. I can just click that, drag it, and drop it in Ableton. So I can just drop it over here. You'll notice that Ableton, in this particular case, has recognized it's 138 BPM. It's changed my speed here. And happy days. We can use it at 130 BPM or we can do some stretching to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate to you how you can take something that sounds just like it is out of the sample pack. And we can't hear it because I don't have this. So let me just turn it on. So it sounds exactly like it does out of the sample pack. Okay, how do we make it our own? What do we do to make it our own? Is that even possible? So here we go. All right, how do we make this more interesting? Well, I mean, we could start by making micro edits to it. We could zoom in here and we could say, okay, I'm going to cut there. So I'm just using Control E on my keyboard to slice this clip. I can actually cut this up at all of the individual hits because I can see where they hit on the grid and it's very nicely sunk up. So what is this repeating? Yeah, cool. So there's a little bit of variation there. But I could simply do something like this. Insert another channel and delete that. I could just press 0. There, it's gone. All right. And if I just loop that. Or keep that. Right, so I've already changed that in a way where it's sort of become more my own, right? I haven't changed the sound so much, but I've changed it. What else could we do? So we could go, all right, grab that one, pop it there, grab that one, pop it there, grab that one, pop it there, and grab that one, and just keep it going. So I'll press 0 to reactivate these, and then... Cool, so that's a little bit different. So there's a way that you can change something. You can just take it and you can chop it up and it's different. Let's get further into it. So I'm just gonna drag that out again. It's looping around, so there we go. Let's delete that. So that's one example. I'm going to slice it here again. I'm going to move that aside. I'm just going to deal with this. I'm going to go Control J to consolidate it, right? So all that's in there is this. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to press this star 2 button, right? What's that done? Right, so it stretched it. If I press that again. Right, so that's different. Can fade it, so that's going to be... Right, so it sounds like a glitching machine, almost. How do I make it even more my own? Okay, let's go ahead and just grab... I like delays, so let's go delay. Grain delay, why not? Chuck it on there. This is just going to be an example of how you tool around with effects to get interesting things, because part of the point of using a sample is you start somewhere, start mangling it, and then it can turn into something completely else, right? So it can act as inspiration. So I really like the spray on here. Let's give it some feedback. Pull that down just a bit. Okay, let's get some reverb. Pull that down a bit. We don't want it to be quite so hardcore. We'll cut the lows, but we'll bring the highs out. Right? So now we've made an effect, essentially. Still got a bit of a melodic element to it. And so on and so forth. We can come in here, we can change the beat mode, we can repitch it. So now it's going to be, if I turn these effects off. Right, so it's pitched down. If I put it on texture, it's going to kind of act like it's a granular synth in a way. Right, we got lots of repetitions in there. And if we decide we put an echo on there. Cool. Reverb after the echo. We're instantly making this sample our own, right? We can go more mental with it. Instantly adding something like a flanger makes an insane effect, right? So what I'm trying to get across is you can take samples, you can use them, and you can be completely creative and unique with them. And there's nothing wrong with using a sample like this and changing it to how you like. So with a little bit of that in mind, that's how to use samples. And basically, there's no real way to teach you how to use them. Inside of Ableton, it's a really good idea to watch videos on warping and how to get interesting textures out of using these warp modes, what they all mean, and how they can be used. And if that's going to be a popular idea, let me know below if you want me to do some more in-depth stuff involving samples. Not to mention that you can also load samples into samplers and use them as well. I could load this into a granular synthesizer. I could do all sorts of stuff with samples. So using samples is a lot of fun, and it's very freeing creatively to allow yourself to take a sample and then run at it with a whole bunch of effects and explore what those effects can do. Because once you understand what these effects do, you become a master of manipulation, right? And when you're actually actively going and reaching for that flanger, because you know that you can get that twisted metallic effect out of it, and you know what you can do with it, yeah, you just take more and more steps towards being this master of sound. And that's what I guess a lot of people are trying to move towards and achieve. So samples are fun. Now, what are the two trains of thought that are most popular when approaching the use of samples? And from what I can identify, there's a train of thought that comes from the, I don't want to get political, so I'm going to say comes from the positive side. Don't read into that too wrong. There's a positive mentality, and I find a sort of, not necessarily a negative mentality, but a more sort of hardcore mentality. And the positive mentality would be, it doesn't matter how you've made something, as long as it rocks. And as long as you're expressing yourself, and as long as you're vibing on it, right? So it doesn't matter what you've made, as long as it's maybe got some artistic merit, or and which is, that's subjective. So how do you measure that? But we're going to get to the point right at the end. And then there's also a lack of imagination from the other end of the spectrum, right? So you're lacking imagination, or you're lacking the know-how of how to do it, how to make a sound without using a sample. So that's coming from like a technical standpoint, that you just don't know what you're doing. So you use samples, and that's a sort of resort. And, I would say that that's not a right or a wrong way of thinking about it. Because it doesn't mean that you are lacking imagination, and it means that maybe you're looking for inspiration, and you want to hear a sound rather than make a sound, and you want to hear that sound and be like, oh, I know exactly where I can fit that in my track. And there could be an argument mounted around whether you use a sample exactly as it is in the sample pack or not. But, I find that the mentality of sort of talking about producers that use samples from sample packs to typically be maybe a little bit of a topic that kind of shows the shadow of an individual, right? So if I'm sitting here and I'm saying to you, oh, dude, don't listen to that. They just use samples to make everything they've ever done. That's boring, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, let's watch a video of them performing live on YouTube, and the crowd is loving it, right? So what are we judging here? Are we jealous that that artist can come along and maybe make music easily using samples and then impress a bunch of people? Are we jealous of that? Are we jealous that we didn't do it? Are we jealous that people don't recognize that we don't do it that way and we do it a more complex way, but we get no praise? So when we're criticizing something, it is always quite relevant to be conscious of maybe where that criticism could be coming from. Are we actually subjectively criticizing something external, or are we projecting insecurity on it, or whatever else? So ultimately, that leaves me sort of feeling like we've come full circle. Whether you think it lacks artistic merit, or whether you think it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, right? So I think ultimately express yourself whatever way you can. Whether that means you look to a sample or whether you make the sound from scratch, I'm not going to judge you. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to act as a gatekeeper for somebody else's artistic expression. And I would suggest that other people shouldn't either, because I don't think that it promotes a very healthy environment for creativity. Now, that's a subjective opinion, and I'm not telling you how to think. I don't want to do that. I want to start a conversation. So if you have some ideas for that, let's talk about it in the description below, comments below. And in the meantime, enjoy goat farming and I will see you guys in another video. Thanks.